Yo, can you hear me? Can you see me? Is the volume okay? Is it too loud, too soft? Wait, need to... Okay. Okay, welcome to the stream, everyone. It's been a while since I streamed. I used to stream every week, but somehow that just kind of fell apart. I hope to get back to streaming weekly. I just got to reorganize my schedule. When did it start? It just started like 3 minutes ago. This is actually later than I would normally stream. But I just wanted to hook up a live stream because it's been a while. And I actually really enjoy doing the live streams, which I don't know why I don't do it more often. It's probably one of my favorite ways to engage. Yeah, you're right. Today is not Monday. Maybe I should change the title, huh? What's today, Wednesday? Yeah, the live streams are not for everyone, I'm for sure. But some people really enjoy them. And my live streams have never really been that popular, I guess. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily why people come to this channel, which makes sense, which I'm fine with. But there's a few people that really like them, so... and I really like them, so... it's probably like my favorite way to actually engage with the audience. It just feels a lot more... I don't know, it feels... I don't know how to say what I want to say. This feels more legit than just like typing on like Twitter and stuff like that. Yeah, more authentic. And I just feel like people, it's easier to get points across. Like, honestly, for me, I'm not that great at like speaking or like public speaking or like improvisational speaking. But at the same time, I still feel like it's easier to get my point across than when I'm writing on social media. Chad, thank you for the super chat. $10. Hey, everybody. Hello to you. Like, I think it's a lot easier for me to organize my thoughts in writing. But it's also harder for people to understand you when you're only writing. And then, social media just kind of sucks in general. It's just kind of a toxic environment, especially Twitter, which is probably the place that I'm at the most, which is, it's one of those things. What's on my mind? There's a lot of things on my mind. I got a lot of things to take care of. I'm behind on my upcoming video, so I have to work on that. I have to do some cleaning for my apartment. I have to buy some new tires for my car. I have to prep for my D&D game this weekend. But that's being an adult. It's all good. And there's probably other things I have to do that I'm not remembering in this moment. I think Parks and Rec is probably better than 30 Rock. Yeah, I'm in two. Well, I'm in two games. I DM one and I play in one. Why do we enable our enslavement to social media? I think it's probably different for different people. The reason is probably different for different people. But I think in general, well, for one, I think that people like attention and people like validation. And social media allows that to an extent that we've never really seen before. Like you can just say something or put up a picture of yourself or have a hot take, and then you get like dozens, if not hundreds of people commenting. Like I don't think there's ever been anything like that. And I think people like stuff like that. And it's not necessarily bad to like stuff like that, but obviously it can become a problem. And I also think we're drawn to conflict and outrage, and social media facilitates that. Like we have to remember, it's not it's partly our fault, but it's also these sites create algorithms that are specifically designed to make us addicted to their site. Like they do it on purpose. It's not like a coincidence. Did the sound change? How long does it take to edit videos? It kind of depends on the video. And editing is just one part of the process, but editing specifically probably takes anywhere from like 5 to 15, 20 hours maybe, just depending on the video. On average for me, I'd say it's probably like 5 to 10 hours of editing. But sometimes you want to try more ambitious things, or sometimes like you just want to. Sometimes you have to spend time like to learn how to do an effect you've never used before. Then that adds more time. And sometimes you want to do like a cool effect that doesn't even look that complicated, but it requires a lot of hours to work. Filming is probably the least time consuming part of making videos, for me at least. Each video probably takes me no more than an hour to film. But ironically, filming is probably also my least favorite part. It's kind of like a formality. Yeah, it's interesting to know that there are people alive that kind of don't remember that there was a time before social media. People that are around my age, it's a very unique age because we kind of lived through, like, I was around before the internet was widespread, you know? Like the internet as a whole, that's crazy. Much less social media. Like I remember when Facebook first started. I remember because when it first started, you had to be in college to use it. And I remember like being jealous because my friend who went to Vanderbilt, they had access to Facebook, and I went to Alabama and we didn't have it yet, but we got it like a couple years later. Opinion on digital blackface. I don't know, man. I think that that's kind of a weird grievance that people have. Like, I don't really understand that complaint at all. I think it's pretty dumb, personally. And even in the early days of the internet, it was so much different. The internet actually seemed like fun and cool back in the day. Like when the internet first came out, we kind of treated it like video games or movies. Like it was just another like way to entertain yourself. You can go online and play games, go in chat rooms and stuff like that. But now the internet is everything. I've been subscribed to your channel since your anti-feminist video. In that regard, I agree with that. Which anti-feminist video? How do I feel about Destiny? I don't know. That's a really broad question. I feel like it would be better if you asked a more specific question. I think Destiny is really smart, but I also think he's like kind of an edgelord and a troll. And I think he likes pissing people off. Yeah, I'm 34 years old. But when it comes to social media for me at this point probably, I mean, I say this, I could be wrong though, but the only reason that I'm on Twitter is because it's pretty good for my career, and it has proven to be good for my career. But as time goes on, I I put a lot of effort into limiting how much time I spend on Twitter. And when I do spend more time on Twitter than I like to, I'm always like unsatisfied with that. So I imagine if I didn't use Twitter as part of my career, I probably wouldn't use it at all. And I use Facebook. I'm okay with Facebook because I honestly, Facebook is the primary way that I keep up with people that I know. Like I don't even text people anymore. I just use Facebook Messenger. So I'm okay with Facebook. I tend to sort of avoid the toxic parts of Facebook, but it's kind of hard to do that on Twitter because Twitter has become so ingrained with my status as a YouTube person. See, I'm not. I don't like this idea of people being useful to my movement. Like I don't really like the way that people speak like that, because people talk about me like that. It's like, "Oh, he's useful for the left." It's like I'm a person. I'm not like a tool that other people get to use for their own movement. Um so, if you want to do something with your movement, then you do it. Don't rely on other people to be useful to you. So like anybody that's like looking for people like Destiny to help out their movement, you're just going about it the entirely wrong way. Destiny's a person. He has his own views, his own agenda, and that's the only thing you should expect from him. Who am I voting for in 2020? I don't know yet. I think currently Elizabeth Warren is in my number one spot. Advice for someone who's dealing with anxiety/depression. Well, I am not a doctor or mental health expert, so my main suggestion would be for you to talk to someone who is. But I mean, you can try meditation, exercise, breathing exercises. You can look at things like your diet. And a good quote that I've heard is sort of check your surroundings, because a lot of people think that they have anxiety and depression, but really they're just stressed out because they're surrounded by stressful things in their life. So you can check on that as well. But ultimately, the only way to get real advice on that is to talk to someone who is a professional. For me, my anxiety is pretty directly linked to stress. So can I've gotten better at managing my anxiety by avoiding stressful situations. But that's easier for some people than others. For example, if you have a job that's stressful, sometimes you can't just leave the job. But you can disassociate yourself from stressful people a lot of the time. Sometimes you can't, like if it's, your mother that you live with or something. But like for me, I was hanging around a lot of people that just sort of brought a lot of negativity and stress into my life, and I just kind of stopped hanging out with them. And then with me, like I said, checking your diet, that's a really big thing with me. That could just be me though. But if I'm like eating really poorly or drinking too much alcohol and things like that, that enhances my anxiety. So it's something to look at. How did I get the idea for the robot voice saying "Follow me" at the beginning of your videos? How did I get the idea? Well, as probably a lot of you know, that voice is from a video game called Oddworld Abe's Exodus. I think it's Abe's Exodus, not Odyssey. I think Odyssey is the sequel. But yeah, it's an old PlayStation game, and in that game, you can make the guy say "Follow me," and I just thought that was cute and it fit what I was trying to do on my little greeting. Um, Electric Lomain, thank you for the $5 super chat. T1J, you are the man, bro. Big ups, bro. How is life? Life is alright, I guess. It's there's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of stuff going on. It's interesting, like the further you go in life, it just seems like the more stuff you gotta do. But that's fine. I'm okay with that. I am generally happy. There's a remastered version on Steam. Oh, what up, Chubby? I have it if you ever want to play it. Oh, okay. I mean, that game is cool. Like, it was kind of like a puzzle solving game, if I remember correctly. You had to sort of figure out the correct way to make it through the levels by issuing the right commands and hitting the right levers in the right order and stuff like that. What exactly made you start this channel? Honestly, I like making stuff, and YouTube lets me make stuff. So that's literally the reason why I started it. Just growing up, I always just made different kinds of creative things like music and comics and drawings and stuff, and YouTube was just another thing. So that's what made me start the channel. Thoughts on NXT moving to USA? It's probably going to make it worse, but I probably shouldn't judge it before I see it. I think the whole point of NXT is it has a really indie feel, and it seems like they're trying to go mainstream with it. And I think that's going to ruin a lot of the appeal of it. Favorite Mortal Kombat character? I don't know. I haven't played the last two Mortal Kombat games, so there's a lot of new characters that I'm not familiar with. Of the ones that I've played, probably like Jax. I would also choose Tekken, Nathan. Tekken 7 is like, I think it's like one of the greatest games of all time. It's probably in my like top 3 fighting games ever. I've never been to one of these live streams and don't really know what it's about. It's about whatever you want it to be about. My live streams are usually pretty chill, just talking with the chat, so I just kind of respond to whatever the chat's talking about. So we can talk about whatever you want. If you've been here for the past few minutes, we've talked about a lot of different things. I'm just responding to the chat. I guess it's like a Q&A. You can think of it like a Q&A, basically. Unlike other streamers, I don't usually have a planned topic for my streams. I just want to. It's really just hanging out. That's kind of my thoughts behind my streams. We're just kind of chilling. What are you into the most? Video games, films, literature, poetry, or comics? I mean, I like all of those things. As for what do I like actually consume the most, definitely video games. I also watch a lot of YouTube. I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't really read comics at all anymore. I kind of miss them though. I don't watch a lot of movies either, but I want to start watching more movies. The only movies that I watch are like the Marvel movies. But I want to watch more. Are you gonna be around at all for Philosophy Tube stream? Is this stream today? I don't even know his schedule. Thoughts on Kofi getting the WWE title? I super back that. I'm surprised it happened, and I'm surprised that he still has it, which is wild. I thought that they were gonna take it take it away from him, like, 2 weeks later. Thank you for the tip, Electric Lomain. Let me see what your message is. Oh, he's doing a charity stream. Yeah, I didn't know about that. That's cool, I guess. I'll probably check out some of it then. Electric Lomain, who are 3 comedians you watch now and why do you like them? Comedians. I don't really like specifically follow comedians. um, there was a period of time where I was like watching a lot of stand up, but I've kind of stopped. I like Bobby Lee's podcast. I don't really watch his stand up, but his podcast is pretty good. Bobby Lee is a very interesting person, and he's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't watched. I can't remember that. I like John Mulaney a lot. I guess that's one. But yeah, I don't really know if I have. I don't keep up, I guess. How much do social media platforms influence the current political climate, and how much is it based on facts? It seems that they have a pretty big influence. And it also seems that a lot of it is not. I mean, a lot of it is obviously not based on facts. I mean, we've seen it proven that there's a lot of false news on social media. But, I think that in the same way as mainstream media, it's all based on sort of sensationalism and outrage. It's like it's mostly lazy. There's not a lot of nuance on social media, and there's not a lot of nuance on mainstream media either. Disney should make animated remakes of their live action movies. I back that. They would probably be better because a lot of their live action movies aren't great. What's your opinion on the new Disney live action films? I have only seen Beauty and the Beast, and I thought it was pretty dumb. But I've heard that Aladdin is okay, and I've heard mixed reviews about Lion King. I mean, I think it's a cash grab, but like I don't really have a problem with cash grabs. As long as it's good, I don't really care. Like, make money. I don't really have a problem with people making money off of stuff. And I've come to sort of appreciate movies in a more complex way. Like, I haven't seen the new Lion King movie, but I've watched interviews about it, and I generally like Jon Favreau, so it's like they clearly put a lot of work into making this movie look real, and I respect that. It's not like they just like making a movie is hard, and once you realize that there's like hundreds of people busting their ass to make these movies, it's hard to be cynical about it. It's like, yeah, these people are actually working really, really hard to make these movies. So I don't know. I don't really think about it that way anymore. My favorite video game is Metal Gear Solid 3. I've had to pay quite a bit of money for half-ass answers. I like this style. You're talking about my stream? Well, fortunately, my stream is not very popular yet, so enjoy it while it lasts. If it gets to a point where there are hundreds or thousands of people in here, it's going to be hard to actually answer questions, and that's when that's why people focus on super chats, because it's like, well, they're actually paying money, so I should probably prioritize them. But even if that happens, I will try my best not to give half-ass answers. Unless people ask. The problem is sometimes people ask weird questions. I'm not saying that you do, but sometimes people ask weird questions that you don't really know how to answer, so you just kind of bullshit. I'm not saying you can't criticize movies, but I'm just saying how my perspective has kind of shifted. Once you come to appreciate different aspects of movies, it's like pretty much every movie is just hundreds of people busting their ass and working really hard. It's like maybe some of them didn't achieve the goal they were going for. Like there's definitely movies that I hate and don't like, but I don't like to be cynical about that kind of thing. Favorite MCU film? Probably it's either Black Panther or Guardians of the Galaxy. What's your stance on bacon, soft or crispy? I think that you need to find a midpoint between those two things. It shouldn't be too soft, or it shouldn't be entirely soft. I feel like there should be some crisp in there and some chewiness. I don't know. I don't know what's on Netflix. Like I said, I don't watch a lot of movies. I did, however, start watching. I watched like the first few episodes of What We Do in the Shadows, and that shit is tight. That shit's pretty good. It's funny. I like it. I've only read 2.5 Harry Potter books. Um, my plan has always been to finish them, but we'll see what happens. Thank you for the super chat, Electric Low Man. Yo, T and J can have some of that rum in the back. Well, it's bourbon, but I mean, if you were here, I'd give you a shot. If you were here, I'd probably give you a shot. It's not against the rules to show alcohol on the screen, is it? I don't think it is. Alcohol's legal. Thoughts on the war Destiny started between leftists and liberals? Destiny definitely did not start that war, let me tell you that. That's been going on for a while now. I need to. Beard's all wonky. Um. But I think the problem is people thought that Destiny was some kind of like potential comrade, and people, but then he just started trolling leftists. But I mean, the left has been fighting with each other since, as far as I can remember. What stood out about Black Panther? Well, I think first you have to understand that that movie is important for Black people, and it's really dope that a movie of that caliber and that, like a blockbuster film, one of the best, one of the highest grossing movies of all time, can have that sort of I guess message and uplifting of black people. So it's important in that way. But I mean, other than that, it's like I, the I don't know, like the sets, the costumes, everything was like amazing. It has probably the best villain out of all of the Marvel movies, if not best, top two or top three. Um, and I've always just been a fan of Black Panther growing up, reading comics. That's always been one of my top three favorite characters. Um, it was just I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. But I don't know. I think that Marvel has sort of. I think everyone is expecting like a fucking multi-hero event every time Marvel makes a movie now. Like they've kind of set the bar too high. So when there's just like a it's hard for them to pull off origin stories now because people it's like we've seen Infinity War. Why do I care about this? And I think that that's kind of what people like. I feel like that's what happened with Captain Marvel, which I thought Captain Marvel was great, but everyone's like I don't know, it's kind of boring. But I think it's just because like yo, we just saw Infinity War. Why do I care about this? And I feel like to some extent that's how people felt about Black Panther because it's like yeah, we've seen Guardians, we've seen Civil War, like this is this is tame by comparison. But I mean, you don't need all that for the movie to be good, you know. I don't know, man. Those characters were badass, dude. Fucking what? The Dora Milaje, Shuri, fucking Winston Duke. What's his character's name? I forgot. You telling me those characters? The movie had so many great characters in it. Like I just feel like the density of dope fucking awesome characters in that movie is the percentage is higher than most other Marvel movies. And the ones that are close are the ones that I love, like Thor Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy. What is the better film series, MCU or X Men? Is that a real question? Most of the X Men movies are bad, in my opinion. I didn't like Captain Marvel because the main character wasn't very likable. I mean, I guess that's if that's how you feel. I thought she was fine. I don't think I've ever seen a Korean horror movie. Do you think he opened the do I think Kofi opened the opportunity for other black wrestlers to grab the brass ring? I don't know. To some extent, I think Kofi is just Vince McMahon humoring the fans. But I don't know. Hopefully, I'm wrong. I mean, I think I watched a few Japanese horror movies like a long time ago in college. I don't watch a lot of horror movies though. It's not really my favorite genre. Well, the same thing applies to the X-Men movies. A lot of them have really cool effects and scenes and stuff. But I just kind of think they generally have weak plots and weak performances. But of course, there's more to movies than that, and that's something that I've started to appreciate more. But it's hard for me to like. It's hard for me to sit in a theater and enjoy a movie if like the acting is bad, or if like I don't understand the motivation of the characters that I'm watching, things like that. I really love the Days of Future Past though. That's like one of my favorite Marvel movies ever. I mean, I saw those classic horror movies when I was little. I don't really keep up. I but yeah, I mean, most of those I don't, I don't. When I watch a movie, like I want to watch a movie for like entertainment and for like I don't like the idea of watching a movie just because it's creepy. Like to me, that's not appealing because I don't like being creeped out. That's not a pleasant feeling for me. Now, I'll watch a horror movie if it has other things going for it, like if there are cool scenes or if there's a message behind it or if there's like if the dialogue is interesting, there's interesting themes. But if the only point of the movie is, hey, it's creepy, that's just not my jam, really. Any semi-recent superhero action movies that you feel have been overlooked? I don't know. Like I said, I don't watch that many movies. The only movies that I've really seen recently are the Marvel movies. Sorry, the left tube stuff has become annoying. You do great work, regardless of how far left. I'm not worried. I mean, don't worry about me. I'm not worried about it. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that whole thing and kind of move on. I guess like I'm okay to talk about it, but I'm not. I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that are trying to draw lines in the sand, or just I don't know. People say weird stuff about it. You can give recommendations, Sebastian, but I don't know when I'll ever get around to it. Yeah, the Nolan movies. I think that the Nolan Batman movies existed for a purpose because it was a different look at Batman than we were used to. Because I think because we were used to fucking George Clooney type stuff. But as movies, I don't think that they're that compelling. They have really great performances though. If they have anything going for them, they have that. But the plots are dumb. There's, like I was saying, the plots are bad. I don't understand the motivations of a lot of characters. It's like, why did that happen? That doesn't make sense. That's kind of how I was watching most of those movies. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. What? No, I understand why people like horror movies. I'm just saying it's not my thing. It's the same reason I don't ride roller coasters because I don't think being terrified is pleasant. But I can understand the thrill that people get from it. Um, yeah, TNG is the shit. Like The Shining, I love The Shining. It's a horror movie, but I like it because it's got more going for it than just being creepy. Which it is creepy. but it's also really cool and compelling and well performed. I like I like most of Kubrick's stuff that I've seen. Favorite TNG character, definitely Data. If there's something, if you like something else as much as people in here like movies, what would it be? Um, Sitcoms, fighting games, and I've gotten really into D&D recently, but I'm still new to it, so I don't know if my thoughts on that really count, but I'm kind of obsessed with it right now. Did I see the hot ones with Stone Cold? I did indeed. I've never seen Suspiria. I've only played 5e. Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. Do I have any opinions about Destiny's debate style? I don't you have to be more specific. I don't know what you mean by his debate style. It seems like a standard debate style. Well, in one of my games I'm the dungeon master, but in my other game I play an elf fighter. Oops. Do I think he's too aggressive? No, I think if you're doing a live public debate and you're being passive, then you're doing it wrong. That's not the way that you debate. An elf who is a fighter or a person who fights elves? I guess both, but I meant an elf who is a fighter. A fighter, I guess, if you don't know, is like a warrior type class, like a just a person with big swords who runs in people's faces and hits them with swords. What? I'll copy and paste that. Got it on a notepad. Who's better, Mario, Pac-Man? I'll go with Mario. Did I go Archer archetype? Nope. Have I heard of Vaush? I've heard of that person. I don't know how to pronounce that. Is it Vosh or Vaush? I haven't heard of that person, but I don't know that much about him. I know there was like some drama involving him at some point, but I didn't follow it. What do I think about How I Met Your Mother? I think it's all right. I don't think it's that funny, but I think it is. I think the characters are good, and I understand why it was popular. Thoughts on TCGs, assuming you mean trading card games? I don't really play that many. Well, I don't play any of them anymore, but I'm down. I like any kind of game, especially any kind of competitive game. I play Hearthstone sometimes, but most trading card games are fairly expensive to actually become competitive in, so I don't really participate. And I don't. At this point, I'm not sure why anybody is taking anything that Donald Trump says seriously. I don't think the guy has ever had a serious thought in his life. Do I have a hobby? Yeah, I play D&D. And I play video games. I used to draw a lot, but I don't draw that much anymore. I keep saying that I'm going to try to get back into it. Nintendo or Namco? Probably Nintendo. I have always said that I'm not very interested in doing live debates. If I did, I would have to do a lot of preparation, and I probably would. I wouldn't. My first debate wouldn't be against someone like Destiny, for example. Although I don't think I have much to debate with Destiny about. But debating is it's a skill that requires practice. It's not something that you just do. And all these people that are trying to jump on Destiny's channel or stream or have him on their stream and debating them, I think that, they need to make sure they know what they're doing before they do that, because Destiny's really good at making people look stupid. I don't know. I don't like Donald Trump, so anything related to him I'm not really interested in. And I disagree. I don't think he's that smart. He's powerful, and the things that he say matters. I'm not saying the things he say don't matter, but I really don't think he's that smart, and I don't think that anything he says is well thought out. Where does the name The One Janitor come from? It's just a silly name I came up with back in the day. You can watch a video that I made. It's called "Why Am I Called the One Janitor?" It explains it. Well, I used to draw. I like to draw comic book type stuff or comic strip type stuff. Cartoons and comics basically is the type of stuff that I like to draw. Destiny is a streamer slash YouTuber, mostly known for gaming, but he also is talks a lot about politics, and he's known for debating people on his stream, and he's kind of known at being a fairly competent debater, and he gained a lot of popularity because he would debate like far right people and alt right and conservatives on his stream. And I think the general consensus is that he kind of just made fools out of all of them. Probably conservatives would disagree, but more recently he's got into a lot of conflict with leftists, like socialists and anarchists and stuff like that. And he's recently, debated a couple of leftists on his stream. But that's kind of where he's at right now. He's just kind of like trolling leftists. But at the same time, he's sort of in like edgelord gamer who like trolls a lot and memes a lot. So he's a very polarizing figure. People don't really know what to think about him. Electro Main, thank you for the $5. I'm out T1J, you the man, homie. I got a new job and some stuff I learned from you helped me get it. Thanks a ton. Heiko, my guy. Well, that's awesome. I appreciate that. And congratulations on your new job. I hope it works out. Well, like I said, I don't draw much anymore, so there wouldn't be anything recent up. But I'd like to get back into it. Do I have friends in the UK? I don't have any close friends in the UK. I have acquaintances that I've met online. I don't really agree that if you go into a debate with someone, you need to have read like dozens of books about the background theory of what they're arguing. I feel like the person that you're debating should be able to like to express the arguments in a decent way. You shouldn't have to already be familiar with them. But that's just me though. Favorite type of music? I don't know. I like a lot of different types of music, but I probably listen to hip hop the most. Yeah, at this point, I feel like we all need to realize that the point of a debate is not to prove anyone wrong or to change anyone's mind. That's never gonna happen. Pretty much ever. It happens like 1% of the time. The point of a debate is presenting your argument to an audience and making your argument seem convincing to an audience and making the opposing argument seem less convincing. That's the whole point. So if you're bad at the rhetorical ways of doing that, you're going to lose the debate, even if your argument is technically better. So, you know, if you want to debate someone, you need to make sure that you have a convincing argument. And it's easier to make a convincing argument if your idea is good. So don't get me wrong, it's good to have good ideas that are based on truth. But if you're bad at debating, it kind of doesn't matter. And that's why it's fairly easy to debate conservatives and creationists and flat earthers and stuff because their ideas are dumb, and it's very easy to pick apart the holes in it, especially if you're a practiced debater. Like I generally don't have an interest in some kind of long form public debate, mainly because I don't think I would be good at it. I get into like very small mini conversations with people like on the internet in text form, but I generally am not interested in, getting on someone's stream and arguing for 2 hours. Maybe one day if I feel more prepared, but I don't know. It's I don't think it would be accomplished. I don't think it would accomplish much. I don't think it would be a good look for me. street epistemology. I don't know if that. I don't know if I know what that is. I've never played Wolfenstein. 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 I can't really. I don't have the brain power to think about all of those developers right now. Nor am I that familiar with all of them. I'll just say Capcom's dope because they make a lot of fighting games that I like. Jess, thank you for $5. Love your content. It was awesome when you mentioned other creators in a video recently. Is there an upcoming vid or idea you can share? Well, there's definitely an upcoming video, but we'll just let it be a surprise. I'm not. I definitely have no interest in sort of getting into this villainizing of any individuals. And I think that most people talk about things like theory and foreign policy, and most people don't know nearly as much about it as they think they do, because they're very complicated subjects. But yeah, I don't know. I've sort of like found myself in this. I keep finding myself in these communities, and for a moment, I'm like, hey man, maybe these are my people. These seem like some cool people with some cool ideas. But it always evolves into just a bunch of drama and bullshit, like every time. And I'm just kind of over it. Like I'm just not. It's just not my thing at all, and I can't. It's always awkward because I think you all. I think I always there's a segment of those communities that become, I guess, fans of my content, and then inevitably I just feel like I have to separate myself from those communities, and so it's just an awkward place where it's like there's like these people that are still sort of yelling at me, because I don't like, I have my own views about everything, but it's like I can't even really. It's like I don't even want to talk about it because the way these communities works is there's just so much drama, and I don't know. I'm kind of rambling right now. I can't really articulate what I'm trying to say. Hold on a second. I'm going to turn this light on. Like the same thing happened with the sort of SJWs or whatever, the social justice crowd on YouTube. Like at first I was like, yo, these are my people or whatever, but then, and I think a lot of it I think is just social media is just bad. But it always devolves into bullshit. People being awful on the internet. Like there's a lot of people in these communities that they spend all day, yelling at people for being shitty and being mean, but then they just do it themselves. They think that they're allowed to do it because they're right. And I don't. It's like, what's the point of having a moral worldview if you don't think it applies to you? I definitely don't know where you can learn to make comics on a professional level because I've never made them on a professional level. But there's tons of art books and books about how to make comics. I used to check out a lot of them at the library. I think it's just, and I've complained about the online left over and over again at this point, so I feel like that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And obviously, I have my own views about like my ideal society, but all I'm trying to do as a YouTuber is just have like interesting discussions about things that are interesting and significant, and B, just like encourage people to like not be assholes to each other. And it just seems like those things aren't really. It seems like the left aren't interested in those things. I think that's the best way to say it. I don't think the online left is interested in the same things that I am. There's a lot of the similar views overlap, like definitely when it comes to social justice, probably on the exact same page for most of those things. But right now it seems like leftists are, I don't know, they've kind of like made a call to arms almost. They're like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to speak for other people because that's one thing I've learned about leftists is none of them like really seem to agree on anything. So if you accuse one leftist of doing something, the next leftist is going to be like, well, that's not what I'm doing. And that's not, if the other person is doing that, then they're doing it wrong. And then the third leftist is like, well, that's not what I'm saying. You're saying you're misrepresenting me. It's like, well, no, leftist number one literally said that. But I guess no leftists agree on anything, so I don't fucking know. So I just don't think that people are. It's just not my thing. It's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to enforce my ideology on the world. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. That's why I say at the end of my video, what do you think? Because I'm interested to hear what other people have to say. I don't think that leftists are interested to hear what other people have to say. And if that's their thing, that's fine. But that's not my thing. And I can't really be involved in that because I don't think that's healthy and I don't think that's what I want to do. Am I spiritual? No, not at all. Um, Classic Doom? Like the original Doom? Do I prefer classic pre-2000s video games? I just like anything that's good. I don't really have a preference of a specific thing. I like fighting games. If I have a preference for anything, it's fighting games. I mean, the original Doom is dope. I haven't played it in a long time though. I mean, the I think that disagreement is good, but the problem is, like, I don't think that blind militant unity is good. It's good for strategy, I guess. It's good for winning, but I don't think it's good for the world or for finding out the best ideas. I think having disagreements and debates is good. The problem is when you go into a debate knowing dogmatically that nothing will ever change your mind. And that's the problem. And until the left gets away from that, then I can't really be involved with it because that's not my jam at all. Like that's the same shit that religious people do, and that's, you know, my foray into social justice began um, with criticisms of religion. So that's still a thing that I'm concerned about. I don't think you need to find if your ideology is such that it can't be proven wrong, then it's a bad ideology. That's basically what I'm saying. Am I gonna talk with Destiny? I don't. There was no plan for that to talk with Destiny. I don't think. Uh, I don't know if we have much to talk about. Like I feel like my problems with the left is not even really related to the ideology itself. To some extent, it is, but mostly it's just like the way that they behave online. To be honest, but unlike Destiny, I'm not trying to be a dick about it. I don't really. I'm not gonna put a lot of energy into trolling leftists online just for the lulz. Because like I said, my ethical and moral standards, I hold myself to the same standards. So I think that being a dick to people is not okay. It's not okay to be an asshole. What do I think of Carlos Maza? I don't know anything about him. I like the videos that he's done for Vox. I don't know anything else about him though. Other 90s FPS games that are just as epic, if not more dope than Doom. I don't doubt it. I probably played some of them. Yeah, I remember the drama between Carlos Maza and Crowder. I mean, you can talk about whatever you want in the chat. I'm not worried about it. Like these, I don't know, these. See, it's at a point where there's a lot of times where I would like to explore ideas, but like I said, I don't think the left is interested in that. So it just feels like a waste of time. And I just don't feel like getting yelled at just for, you know, questioning things. I don't think it's fair to make fun of someone's sexuality, but Carlos Maza, I feel, should have calmed down at some point. I don't know. I think that it seemed like a pretty clear-cut case of YouTube refusing to enforce its own community guidelines. Um, and I don't know if you've ever been a target of sort of coordinated dogpiling and harassment, but it's pretty not fun. And if you have been, you can understand why someone would be upset about it and would be pretty flustered about it. So I think that if you sort of understood it from that angle, you probably wouldn't tell them to calm down, because that shit sucks a lot and it's bad for your mental health. It makes you not want to make content. It's a bad thing. Do you find people on the right are more open to discussion? Hell no. I think that a lot of them pretend that they are, but they aren't really. The kindergarten cop reference. Hell yeah. This is an old argument, and I don't want to go too deep into this. But if you have a lot, first of all, we're not dumb. Like, we need to use some critical thinking skills. Like, just relax, be honest. If you've got like millions of subscribers and you make a mean-spirited video about another public person, first of all, you should know that your audience is going to attack that person. You should just know that. It happens every single time, has been happening for years. So it's completely dishonest and disingenuous to be like, oh, well, I didn't tell him to do it. Second of all, even if you didn't know, it happens, and then you keep doing it again. So you already have proof that it will happen. So you do it again, knowing that it will happen. So that, like, we had this discussion with the anti-SJWs like in 2015. This is an old thing that is just not a great argument. Like, you either don't give a shit about people being harassed by your audience, or you do give a shit. And if you don't give a shit, I think that you are being a bad person. Like, if my audience, I would never tell my audience to do that. But if I found out that my audience was harassing people, I would immediately publicly denounce that. And if I found individuals doing that, I would probably like specifically admonish them for doing that. Like, you should give a shit about that. You should care about other people. So I hate that argument. And like I said, we've heard that every fucking anti-SJW used to say that, well, I didn't tell them to, but every time you make a video, they do it. You know they're going to do it. So obviously you don't have a problem with it. Or you might like it. So don't even come at me with that. You should not want your audience to do that. You should. And if your audience is doing that, you should be doing something to make them stop doing that. It's called responsibility as a creator. Of course they were being disingenuous. It's a ridiculous thing to say. And there's certain people, like, I think certain people enjoy it. They like when their audience does that. They like being able to wield that power to attack and silence people. And a lot of them, and they sort of hide behind this, like, well, I didn't tell him to do it. But certain people, like Sargon Avocado is a good example. He many times he did absolutely tell them to. He didn't say, like, go harass them, but he'll make a tweet or something that's like, hey, why don't we go tell these people what we think about this? He's definitely done that before. I don't know that Crowder has done that, but still, you know it's going to happen. It's just part of being a responsible human being. It doesn't see, other people do it too is not a justification for you doing it. That's also a bad argument. It's irresponsible, 100%. You are responsible for your audience. I don't buy that at all. Your audience follows you. They do what you tell them to do. They follow your lead. If you make a certain type of content, it's going to draw a certain type of viewer. You 100% are responsible for that. 100%, no question. Like, my audience doesn't go around harassing people. You know why? Because I don't make mean-spirited content. I don't make content that encourages people to be assholes. So obviously what I do has a direct correlation to what my audience does. So yes, I am responsible. I directly am responsible for what happens. I'm not saying I'm 100% responsible. Like, if one of my audience commits a crime, obviously I shouldn't go to jail. But the public should look at me and say, okay, why is this guy who's, committing crimes influenced by that creator? Let's talk about that. That's 100% legit. But my audience doesn't do that. And if they do, let me know, because we're going to put a stop to it. But other people like Crowder, Sargon, those people, their audiences go around harassing people all the time, nonstop, as a matter of habit. You think it's a coincidence? Obviously, it's not a coincidence. No, it's responsibility. The word is responsibility. When you have a big audience, you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to wield that influence in a responsible way. And if other people are doing it, that doesn't make the argument not less right. People on there are audiences on the left that do it too, and the same thing applies. It's a huge cop out. I hate that argument so much. It's a huge cop out. These people are directly influenced by you. Just to say that you have no responsibility over that is ridiculous. They're doing what they're doing because of you. How can you not be responsible? That's absurd. Yeah, they don't bear the exact same responsibility. If one of their audience kills someone, they shouldn't go to jail, obviously. But we can still talk about the influence that they had on that person that caused them to be radical enough to kill someone. I think that's 100% legitimate discussion to be had. If you can show me a link between that person and CNN, then yeah. But the the idea that someone watches CNN and wants to shoot up a Republican baseball game doesn't make sense, because CNN is just a middle of the road news organization. But if you can show me that link, sure. I'm not saying that anything you watch is responsible for everything you do. I'm talking about behaviors that are directly linked to things that you watch. CNN is the most aggressively neutral fucking news organization ever. And the fact that people think that they're left wing is hilarious, and that just kind of shows just how far right the Overton window has shifted in America. People think CNN is left wing. CNN, really? They're like annoyingly middle of the road. They're like moderate when it's inappropriate to be moderate. They're like I don't know. That just kind of goes to show just how far right the conversation has moved in America. That people think CNN is left wing. They are fence sitters for sure. That is the best way to describe CNN, is absolute fence sitters. But I see where your mind's at now, that you are insisting that CNN is left wing, and I understand why you're making this argument now. So, okay, never mind. CNN is aggressively neutral. It's you can't really even call them centrist or moderate because they don't have a political view. They just ride the fence on everything. There are some left-wing people that work for CNN, obviously, but there are some right-wing people that work for CNN also. Overall, the news is fairly neutral. It's neutral to the extent it's like irresponsibly neutral, in my opinion. Like, for example, Trump, if Donald Trump gets on TV and tells a lie, like an obvious lie, CNN will spend an hour discussing, like, so was the thing that Donald Trump said really false? Like, what should we say when Donald Trump spreads falsehoods? Did he know that he was spreading a falsehood? It's like, no, he lied, bro. It's okay to say he lied because it's true that he lied. I think that CNN is comparable to Wikipedia in its neutralness. Neutrality, I think, is the correct noun. But the problem is being neutral all the time precludes you from telling the truth sometimes. Because sometimes the truth rests on one side more than the other. I think that NPR I think that NPR has a probably left of center bias, but they are, as far as I can tell, they are generally truthful. I don't think that NPR has ever like just straight up told, just lied or misrepresented something in the way that Fox News does all the time. But NPR, I think, is very selective about what stories they choose to cover, and I think that they choose to cover things that sort of favor the left wing narrative. But it's like slightly left of center. It's not like MSNBC. MSNBC is very clearly a fucking Democrat. It's like it's a Democratic establishment fucking machine. The point of MSNBC is to get Democrats elected, I'm pretty sure. They have a very, very clear bias. So when you watch something like MSNBC, and then saying that CNN is the same, like, you're just not paying attention at all. Does facts being on one side of the or the other make sticking to one tribe more unlikely? I don't know. From in my experience, in my what I believe is that the right is usually wrong. So if you're following the facts, I don't know how you end up on the right. I don't think that the right is a fact based. I don't think they generally have fact based ideology. I think that sometimes the people on the left get the facts wrong, or they lean more towards emotions than facts. But I think generally the left is more supported by facts and data than the right is, which is why I consider myself a progressive and a left-wing person, because the facts and the data, beyond my moral views, the facts support the left-wing narrative, in my opinion. I would feel free to hear other views on that, but that's, in my years as a human, that's what I've what I've concluded. Hillary and Bernie are both Democrats, so that doesn't really prove the point that you're trying to make. Do you think the right or conservative is ever correct on any issue? I don't know. It's just a kind of too broad of a question. It's hard for me. Like, I don't like to speak broadly about these kind of things. Like, I want to speak more specifically. I'm sure that there's something that conservatives believe that's true. I'm sure you could come up with something. And a lot of times I think it's just people ignoring nuance or oversimplifying things. So sometimes you might believe something that's like technically true, but they just haven't really looked at the nuance. When I was right leaning, I could have swore the right was more factual. Can you go into how regular people, even smart people, can be fooled? Um, well, I mean, that's how propaganda works. Because if you if you tell people that the things they want to be true are actually true, then obviously they're going to go along with that. The problem with the truth is that the truth is not always convenient. And I think that the left doesn't realize this sometimes as well. But the truth is not always convenient to what you believe. And I think that is that's how sort of confirmation bias works. And I think the right leans heavily into that sort of emotional bias where it's like, you know, if something disagrees with the worldview, or if something that you want to be true, they just go ahead and say, yeah, it's true, sure. You know, it doesn't even matter how untrue it is. People will go along with it because they want it to be true. I think I don't know, when it comes to deep fakes, I think that we'll probably adapt in the same way that we know not to trust photos because photos can be easily photoshopped. I think we'll learn to do that with videos and audio. Is there a way to prevent yourself from being fooled? I don't You just have to be honest with yourself and constantly reassess why you believe the things that you believe. And you also have to expose yourself to factual information and data. Don't believe something just because someone told you. If someone tells you something, if someone says X is a fact, X happened, or X is a true statistic, you need to always look it up, because people make shit up all the time. And you also have to be, you have to um you have to make sure that you're reading carefully, because certain people like to use facts and statistics in a dishonest way. Ben Shapiro is a very good example of that. He quotes statistics a lot that seem true, but he always uses it in a dishonest way. So I don't know. It's you just have to think. It's not easy. It requires critical thinking. It requires research. That's the problem, is we're kind of too lazy to actually look things up and fact check and double check and, look up research and read. But that's what is required if you if you're interested in following the truth. But at the same time, you shouldn't expect perfection. You're a human being. But the thing about that is, you should always be ready to admit that you're wrong all the time. You should 100% all the time be ready to admit that you're wrong, if provided with enough evidence. So you need to be like that. But you shouldn't expect perfection. You're gonna slip up. You're gonna believe some bullshit at some point in your life. That's just part of being a human. Our brains are bad. It sucks, but our brains are pretty bad. So we have to actively work on it. Like watch some more news video about Ben Shapiro, and he goes into detail about how Ben Shapiro misuses facts. The video is like an hour long, but or maybe like 30 minutes long, so it's kind of long, but it really shows you like a way that people misuse data, because Ben Shapiro is very careful about what he does. He almost never quotes something that's just straight out false. Some people just say shit that's just provably false all the time. But Ben Shapiro is careful about not doing that. But if you just spend a little more time researching what he's saying, PragerU does this all the time also. PragerU, their videos quote a lot of studies and statistics, but they're always misquoted and always quoted out of context and used in a dishonest way. Does the left have to be really wrong and fall into emotional mode just to make the right seem even slightly more nuanced and even correct? I really don't feel like the left being wrong has anything to do with the right seeming right. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. There's this idea that, yeah, I experienced some left-wing people and they were all emotional and weird, and that's what drove me to the right. That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't sound right in my head. It seems like you were already flirting with the right to begin with. At this point, if you watch Cody's video on Ben Shapiro, I don't understand. I don't know how anyone can still be a fan of Ben Shapiro after watching that. That was I'm usually not a fan of these sort of takedown videos, but I think Ben Shapiro is a person that needs to be taken down. I think he's bad for the world, and that was it was just beautifully done. Um, I've never been to Australia. No. I think I've listened to the Hitchens and Prager debate. It was a long time ago, though. I don't remember. Yeah, I mean that's sort of one of the strengths of the right's narrative is they're very simple. But that we're that I think that's part of why a lot of left-wing creators on YouTube have started to rise up, because they found a way to parse these complicated topics in a way that's entertaining. But again, I think the left, I feel like whenever the left tries to copy the right, they always do it worse. And I think that we're trying to see that with a lot of left-wing people, is they're trying to like simplify everything and make everything sound simple, and it's just not simple ever, or at least usually. Yeah, the alt right playbook is also a very good series for learning about this kind of stuff. I mean, if you have a narrative, if you have an idea, and you want more people to come towards your idea, then you have to figure out a way to make it accessible to people, and you have to figure out a way to make it accessible to normal people. That's just how it works. So I think that the left often has this idea, and it's not the left as a whole, but it's segments of the left, especially the online left, is really, honestly, my beef is not with, it's with the online left. It's not with the left as a whole. I think the left in general is fine, but there's this sort of like snobbery where it's like, you should just know better. I shouldn't have to explain to you why my idea is right. You should just know already. And it, even if it's true that they should know better, that's not convincing. No one is going to be convinced by that ever. Um, and so that, I think that's a big problem. I've never been to China or Japan. I've never really been outside of the country for real, outside of America. There's a problem with the online left being the online part of it. I think that's part of it. I think social media has ruined everything. But the problem is social media is like really influential, and you know, it's a big deal. It's not you can't really ignore it. So, and don't get me wrong, the online right is worse. Like, I criticize the left a lot, but I want you to know that the right is worse. It's much worse. So let's be clear about that. Um, and I criticize the right way more, but you know, if I have a view on something that the left is doing, I might share it. But I want to I want it to be clear that the right is way worse, especially the online right. The online right are the people that are fucking sending death threats to people, and you know, rape threats, and harassing women and LGBTQ people. And then a lot of these people are the people that actually get off the internet and go shoot up people. So um, the right's worse for sure. How do you deal with your own personal biases when writing videos? Well, generally in my videos, sort of like the structure of my videos is considering every every argument against my view that I can think of. Like if you look at my videos, that's kind of how all of them are structured. Is me saying, here's my view, and here's my response to every argument against my view that I can think of. That's kind of how all of my videos are. So generally, I will have thought about all of the counters to my argument, and then I just try to make a compelling response, and you can decide whether it is compelling or not. But I don't think that bias in and of itself is bad. Like my channel clearly has a bias towards progressive thought, towards left-wing views, towards social justice. Like, it's very clear bias. I'm not pretending to be some unbiased middle of the road person. So bias in and of itself is not the problem. But the problem is being dishonest and being misrepresenting things. And that's what I try not to do. Do you think violence is inherent to right-wing, particularly far right-wing politics? Well, I think violence is inherent to fascism. I mean, it kind of depends on what you mean by violence. But sort of like, like aggressive, malicious violence, I think is inherent to fascism specifically. I don't think violence is inherent to the right as a whole. Like, I think that libertarians, for example, are generally nonviolent. I think that's a big part of their whole ideology, is that violence is bad. But certain segments of it, but certain segments of the left are violent too. So I don't think it's inherent to the right. But the idea of killing someone that you perceive as a political enemy, I think that is a right-wing idea. And the idea of killing someone as a means of silence, the idea of violence as a means of silencing someone, I think is a right-wing idea. I think that the left wing would perceive violence as a means towards like revolution or uprooting a system that they think is unjust. You might not agree that that's a good thing, but I think that is more the way that they would see it, which I think is different than using violence to silence someone just because they are political dissenter or because they're like the wrong race, I have been to Chuck E. Cheese and I have been to Dave and Buster's. You have access to all of the knowledge of the world, or as much of it as possible, wouldn't be holding people to educate oneself about a topic. I mean, I think that education is good. I don't know if I understand the question correctly. Favorite light gun games? I like Time Crisis. I don't know, you have to be careful with violence. If you're willing to fight people or physically harm people or kill people, you need to be sure that the thing that you're fighting for is correct. And I'm not, and it seems very, I I don't know. I think there are very few things that are that cut and dry. Like there are some things it's like, okay, yeah, people shouldn't be slaves. I'll fight for that. Okay, yeah, people shouldn't be treated as second class citizens or treated as less than human. I'll fight for that. But, when it comes to other things, like, I don't know. I don't want to give examples because I feel like people will take it the wrong way, but like I'm too willing to hear other ideas for a lot of things. I'm not ready to fight and die for ideas because I might be wrong. It's like everyone that doesn't suck and isn't mean. Well, I think that most of the problems of the world is not that people suck. I think that everyone is capable of sucking in one way or another, depending on the conditions that they're in. Like the idea, I think there a lot of people have this idea that we just need to defeat all of the evil people in the world and then we'll be fine. And I just don't think that humans work like that. I don't think it's like a separation of good and evil people. Thanks, thanks, Mr. Nickel Kids. Do you feel that restriction of food and housing is a form of violence? I don't know. I feel like that's you're getting like too metaphorical there. Obviously, like if you try to steal food from a store or something, then yeah, they can use violence to restrict you from having it. But I feel like that's not what you're asking. And this is why I said before it depends on what you mean by violence, because violence isn't always violence sort of has this sort of negative connotation sometimes, but it's not always negative. For example, I'm not an anarchist. I think that there should be a government or a state that enforces civil rights and enforces access to things like food and housing. And I think that the state should have the authority to use violence to enforce those things. So I don't like when we say violence, we have to sort of be clear about what we mean. Yeah, I don't like it. I feel like if you end up on the right, you were already flirting with the right. Like I disagree with the leftists on a lot of stuff, but it hasn't made me a right winger. I've pretty much stayed pretty firmly where I'm at. It hasn't pushed me to the right. That just sounds nonsensical to me. Jason, thank you for the $5 super chat. You have the money to travel everywhere. Where do you go? You have a time machine. When do you go to? You can fix one of your looks. What fix? Where would I travel? I don't know. I kind of want to go everywhere. I guess if it was just a vacation and I had to come back, I'd probably go to like Japan. You have a time machine? Um, I don't know. The future. Black people can't fuck with time machines. C, you can fix one of your looks. I don't know. Probably just take out some of that belly fat. But I mean, I can do that anyway if I just work hard enough. I've just been lazy. But if I guess if I could do it with magic, then I'd do that. I'm not really that informed about Hong Kong, so I probably can't answer that. Again, some random geek. You're speaking very figuratively. I guess in a figurative, metaphorical way, it's a form of violence, but it's not literally a direct violence. I have no idea about who can or will beat Trump. I cannot predict anything related to Trump. Yeah, I just feel like we're being semantic right now. Is it bad? Yes. Is if you want me to say that it's bad, then yes, it's bad. It is a bad thing. Trump has sort of defied every expectation that I've had, so I refuse to even make predictions about him anymore. Do you have any specific issue in which you are relatively right wing? I don't know what qualifies as a right wing position. I don't I hate answering broad questions about my views. I just want to answer specific questions. Name some right wing views and I'll tell you if I agree with them. I don't know. Uh, I mean, I don't know what the arguments that you gave were, and it's unlikely that in just the next 10 minutes I'm gonna completely change your whole worldview. But if you say something that's a fact, or if you say something as if it is a fact and it's not a fact, and I happen to know it's not a fact, then I can tell you that. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know everything. Cats or dogs? Definitely dogs. I don't know. I don't. I probably don't have any radical beliefs, but I don't know what counts as a radical belief. Well, I'm not. I'm not pro Second Amendment at all. I think the Second Amendment is dumb. Is Trump a direct reaction to America having its first black president? I think that's part of it, but I don't think that's the full story. But I do think that in part Trump was uh, as um, fuck's his name? Van Jones. As Van Jones said, it was a white lash. But I don't think that's the full story. I think that a lot of leftists, especially marginalized leftists, they like the idea of guns because they think that they're gonna need to use violence in order to have a revolution. But it's not really a it's being pro-gun is not consistent with facts or data or reality in any way. It's a purely emotional uh, argument, um, and which you can't really argue with that. I guess it's like, hey, if you like guns, America, you have the right to have one. So I mean, what am I going to say about that? Well, my theory, the fireball, my theory of racism, or my theory of race, is that you don't really pick your race. You can sort of pick your cultural identity, but your race is determined by how you are perceived in society. I mean, race is a super dumb thing that we shouldn't really use at all, but even if you don't consider yourself black, if you go into a job interview and they perceive you as black, they're still going to treat you as if you're black. So it kind of doesn't matter what you think. You can go in there and say, yo, I identify as a black American, or you can say, I identify as a mixed race individual, but if they perceive you as black, you're going to be treated like you're black. If you get arrested by the cops and you're perceived as black, they're going to treat you like you're black. So it kind of doesn't matter what what you think your race is. Now, your cultural identity, that's on you. But I'm pretty sure Obama identifies as black, so I don't know if you were specifically talking about him. A bicep shot? Well, that's weird. I'll give you a bicep shot if you donate. Guns are just one of those things that it it's just one of those things that Americans are backwards on. It's one of those things that sounds cool, but it's not. It's similar to how um, a lot of conservatives think that telling children or telling teenagers to not have sex will prevent them from having sex. It's like, well, it sounds like that might work if if you drill abstinence into these kids' heads, maybe they'll stop having sex. But in reality, when we look at the data, it does not work. And that's the same thing with giving people guns. It sounds like guns would be good to defend yourself, but in reality, if you look at the data, it does not work. More guns just makes more people unsafe, including the people you intend to defend. Like I said, I don't understand anything about Trump or Trump voters. It seemed very clear to me that he was an idiot who was an asshole and kind of a bigot and just had no idea what he was talking about. And people who don't think that, I just don't understand those people at all. I just don't. What do I think of illegal immigration? Well, for one, illegal immigration has plummeted over the past few years. So the idea that illegal immigration is like this big problem in America is a lie. It's a Republican lie. So first of all, that's the main thing we should be saying. The whole thing is based on bullshit. Second of all, I don't. If it was easier not even easier, but if it was less ridiculously convoluted to become an American citizen, then people wouldn't illegally immigrate. People wouldn't even try to do it. They would just go through the proper channels. But the proper channels are so ridiculous to get through, so it's like not even worth it. Second of all, or third of all, I think the vast majority of immigrants in America who are undocumented are people who's just overstayed their visas. They're people who came into the country legally and just stayed. So it has nothing to do with like actual illegal immigration. Did you just hear that? It was thunder. We're about to have a storm. Do you believe gun control would solve the problems which cause mass shootings, or is it a band-aid on a bullet wound? Possibly. So there's two things you can say. You could say, A, people are going to try to do mass shootings anyway. In that case, if A, it's really hard for them to get guns, and B, it's hard for them to get guns that make mass shootings easier, like high capacity cartridges, bump stocks, the rifles that make fucking aiming and shooting really easy, things like that. It's like, even if they get access, for one, if they can't get access to those guns, if they try to do a shooting, A, they may not be able to get the gun, or B, if they do the shooting, a lot less people are going to die. Like the Las Vegas thing, if that guy didn't have bump stocks, he wouldn't have been able to kill that many people. It's just, there would have been less people dead, just 100%. So that's going to cut down on just the amount of people that get hurt or killed in general. Or you might say that if people just don't even have access to these weapons, they're not even going to come up with the idea of trying to shoot up, a public place, because they can't do it, Like, if someone says, like, I don't know, like, you know what, I'm going to go to the White House and I'm going to shoot a bazooka through the window. It's a thing that could be done, but no one comes up with that idea because it's hard to get a bazooka. You can't just go get one. So the fact that guns are so easy to get, I think, is part of what influences people to want to try that in the first place. So that's just kind of my thoughts. I could be wrong. I don't think it's too late for gun control. Capitalism or socialism? Probably some mix of the two. I mean, I think we're at the point where privacy is a myth anyway, so it's like, if people know your name, fucking Google already knows your name anyway. They all know your name. How easy should it be to immigrate to the U.S.? I think it should be easy. I feel like if you want to come into a country, pass a quick background check, make sure you're not a criminal, make sure you don't have ties to some kind of weird organization, and then fucking I don't know, fill out a form, pay an application fee or something, and then you're good. I feel like it should not be hard. I feel like you should have the choice to live in a free country, any free country that you choose. I have not read So You've Been Publicly Shamed, but it's been suggested to me a lot. Kunta DC, how's your week moving? Thank you for the $2. Um, it's going pretty good. Um, I got a lot of stuff to do this week, and I've kind of procrastinated a little bit, but I'll get it done. I wanted to have a video out this week, but it'll probably end up being next week. Why the country has no right to say no? I think they do have the right to say no. I just think it's stupid to say no for no reason. I don't have a problem with people coming in and having to go through a background check and things like that. I think that's fair. But I don't know. I think you should be able to live where you want to live. I'm even okay if if for any reason you're perceived. I mean, assuming that there are fair qualifications. The problem is there's probably going to be a lot of bias regardless. Yeah, we want people to move to democracies because democracies are good. I don't. Well, I think that people matter more than numbers. What's my alcohol of choice? I wouldn't say it's my alcohol of choice, but it's just cheap whiskey. When you're on a budget, you just gotta buy the cheap stuff. I don't. As far as Edward Snowden, it seems to me that the thing that he did was good for the world. So that's fine, I guess. Julian Assange seems like kind of a creep. I think that WikiLeaks has, um, it's obviously whistleblowed some important things, but it also there's a whole, so much weird shit has come out about Julian Assange that I'm not gonna get on the Julian Assange train. I like Evan Williams Green Label actually. That would probably be my pick too. But that's Club 400, which is cheaper than Evan Williams Green Label. So it's literally like the only thing cheaper than that at my local liquor store is Heaven Hill, and I can't stoop that low. What do you do besides this channel to promote social issues you believe in? Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm constantly speaking with people. Every now and then I'll donate to a cause or charity that is doing good things. But yeah, making content is the main thing that I do. Takes up most of my time. Yeah, I support whistleblowing, but I don't support it if it is done in a biased way to only favor certain people, and that it seems like that's what WikiLeaks has done. And also, Julian Assange is kind of a creep. I think Joe Biden is just out of touch. He's sort of stuck in the old democratic liberal way of thinking. I don't think he is progressive enough for this generation. But I don't know. He continues to lead in the polls, or he continues to do well in the polls at least. So maybe the world isn't actually, or maybe the country isn't actually ready for an actual progressive president, which would be sad, but that's the way it is. Anyway, we've been streaming for about 2 hours, in 2.5 hours, so I'm gonna probably go in about 5 minutes. But it has been fun, nice lively stream today. We can probably get one or two more questions and comments in there. At some point I'm gonna start streaming weekly again. That's the plan, but I just haven't been able to do it. Well, I guess I've been able to, but I just haven't felt like doing it. But the plan is to stream weekly, and I usually stream on Mondays. So look out for that. Thanks for everyone who dropped a super chat or a tip. I mean, electability is one thing, but the thing is, he's actually doing well in the polls. Like, it's not false that he's doing well in the polls. So you can't ignore that. Fruit Loop, thank you for the super chat. Is that Canada 34.99? I appreciate that. Thank you for your content. Keep fighting the good fight. I appreciate that. Um, Worst hard liquor, probably vodka. I mean, vodka has its place. Probably gin, actually. I hate gin. One last question for me. Thoughts on AOE and NXT airing at the same time? I think it's a mistake by Vince McMahon, and I think the only way this works is if NXT stays the same and doesn't change, which is probably not going to happen because I don't think NXT as is will appeal to a wide mainstream audience. So Vince McMahon is going to get in there and Vince it all up, and I think it's going to be bad. Meanwhile, AOE, I think, genuinely has the indie audience, so they don't have the pressure. So we'll see. Yeah, I honestly don't know enough about European politics, so I can't really comment. I've been saying for years that I want to keep up more with it, but I just really don't. Um, I'll probably check out the streams. I didn't know that Sonic Fox was streaming, but I'll check him out. I'm a fan of Sonic Fox. But okay, so should have a video next week. Um, if you want to make sure that you never miss a stream, go ahead and click that notification bell. It should alert you when I go live. I have a Discord channel for those of you that are into Discord. Just go to theonejanitor.com/Discord and you'll get an invite to the Discord. Anybody can come. It's not like a private Discord like some of the other YouTubers do. Anybody can come and chill. It's just a really chill, positive place. So if you're into that, you can check that out. You can check the description of the video for all my social media links. I guess, is that it? Oh, I just opened up a new, I got some new merch. If any of you are interested in merch, just go to theonejanitor.com/store. I just released some new t-shirts, which are pretty cool. I'm gonna announce it in a video coming up, but if you want to get that early look, you can go ahead and check that out. But yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, you can become a patron on Patreon if you're down for that sort of thing. Patreon is definitely the ultimate way to support me and support this channel. So if you got an extra buck a month and you'd like to help me out and help me build this channel and make it better and just make everything better, that's the best way to do that. Patreon.com/theonejanitor. And there's probably some other links that I forgot that you can just check the description. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Hopefully we will do this again soon. If you want to talk to me, the best ways to do that are Discord and email, hello@theonejanitor.com, and Curious Cat is curiouscat.me/onejanitor. Is that how it goes? Yeah. Curiouscat.me/onejanitor. You can try Twitter, but I mute most of my notifications on Twitter, so I might not see it. But you can try. Anyway. All right, I'm going to leave. See you later. Bye.